So this is Den of Vagabond Buddha, and we're in Hue, Vietnam. And today we're taking you on our Old Town walking tour, which consists mostly of the Imperial Citadel, and a market, and a view of the Perfume River.
Perfume River? Why it smells like perfume?
I don't know. It's to our right now. Do you smell any perfume?
No.
I don't either. This is a beautiful park that you walk through as you head towards the Citadel from the part of town where most of the accommodations are. So we're walking through this beautiful park and heading to the Citadel. This is our Hue, Vietnam Imperial City walking tour. If it looks fun, click the link below this YouTube video to get a map, and just click the map on your smartphone and start walking. At that link, you'll also find everything you need to know to save money or retire cheap in Hue. Okay, back to our video. It's a beautiful city, isn't it? We're both enjoying the clean air here.
Oh yeah, very good clean air. Food are clean and good and cheaper than Hanoi.
Yeah, the air is much cleaner than Hanoi. The food is about half price. Typical in smaller towns, it's easier to keep the town itself clean. It's not as noisy. It's easier to sleep.
No more construction next to our building.
Yeah, we had construction going on right in the condo next door to ours, so we had to head out for the day usually because it got kind of noisy.
And they are construction until like 10 p.m. It's crazy. Sunday they also working.
Yeah, they work a lot in Vietnam. So anyway, we're here to show you Hue. So now we're crossing the bridge itself. We're over the Perfume River. The park is behind me now. And the first stop's going to be a market up this way a few kilometers. Thought I'd show you what a wet market looks like. It's a local market before we head into the Citadel. The Citadel entry's over there. We'll go there after the market. With a wet market, typically there's a major area with booths that they rent from the owner of the land where the wet market is. And then outside, the streets approaching it are more ad hoc like this. People just put up little tents or umbrellas, and they bring in their own foods in there that they've grown themselves or bought from a local farmer. And the prices are typically cheap, a little cheaper on the outskirts like this, but you have to know the prices before you know what's cheaper. These are not typical tourist attractions. These are locals coming to buy food from other locals. They have almost no expense really here. That's why they're able to offer cheaper prices. Out here, you're probably only going to pay, it's going to be more like 60 or 70% off US prices. So we just entered the Citadel. This is one of the 4 gates, of the original 4 gates. This is just a park on the way to the Citadel. There's actually 2 walls. There's the outside wall that protected the citizens of Hue, and then there's the inside wall, which is a little higher and more fortified. both crazy fortified. I already showed you the first. That's to protect the emperor. So this is the inside moat. There's an outside moat we crossed. It was even bigger than this one, and this is the inside moat. And the first moat's on the outside of the big wall, which surrounds the entire Imperial city. And then this moat is on the outside of the Citadel wall, or where the emperor lived. Anyway, classy stuff, huh? Beautiful. So this is the main entrance into the Citadel, or the Forbidden City, where the emperor lived. The first version of this was built in the late 18th century, and then it was later fortified and rebuilt in the early 19th century, starting in about 1802 or 1800, when the Nguyen dynasty took control of all of Vietnam. That I just showed you the inner wall, the emperor's sanctuary. This is the outer wall that protected the city. You probably can't really tell, we're a little far, but it's a very substantial wall. It's quite high, it's very deep, and it has fortifications all the way around the outside. Most of the military, of course, lived in this area, not inside the main center with the king. They were here, and this is also where many of the citizens lived, although some also lived outside these outer walls. Anyway, much of this, as you might imagine, was bombed out of existence during the Vietnam War, during both the French Indochina Wars and also the Vietnam War. And so what you're looking at here is a refurbishing of some parts that were left and others that were fortified or refurbished. So when you arrive at the main gate of the interior wall of the Citadel, there's going to be 3 doors. Is it door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? The center door is always locked. It's for the king, the emperor, who's no longer with us, and so it's always locked. And then the sides are where you're going to go in. And if you're an international, you go left. If you're Vietnamese, you go right. And if you're Chung Hoi, you jump over because you have long legs. Okay, you're inside. Let's look around this place. So I showed you the main entrance over my shoulder now from the outside. Now we're on the inside, of course. That building that sits on top of the gate is where the emperor with his court would sit and observe visiting dignitaries as they entered, or military ceremonies out in the front area I showed you. And it was a safe place for him to view what was happening out in his city. So across from the main gate is the Palace of Supreme Harmony, or the Throne Palace. Anyway, this is it behind me now. It was a favored target in the Vietnam War. One of the bloodiest battles fought in Vietnam was fought during Tet. And Vietnamese Tet means New Year, so it was fought during the Vietnamese New Year's. At that time, the South and the Americans bombed Hue was a major attack spot during that period. They ultimately were unsuccessful, and the North Vietnamese, or the Viet Cong, continued to control this area. And there were a lot of local Vietnamese that were believed to be friendly to Americans, which apparently is true. And about 4,000 were murdered by the Viet Cong for being friendly. Anyway, this building was almost bombed out of existence, but they've done a pretty good job of reconstructing it using a lot of the original materials, which unfortunately you can't say for much of the palace. Much of it's done with newer materials. That's the back of the throne palace, which we just went inside of and didn't show you anything because no photography is allowed. And there's a courtyard here behind it, and there's two yellow buildings, that one and a mirror of it here. And those are the administrative buildings. This is where the servants of the king that kept track of administrative affairs worked. It's also where they tested new kids to see if they're really smart, so they could learn to be administrators for the emperor. And it's also where they held banquets. Cheng-Hui was just noting all of these posters over here, which are documents, administrative documents from the time of the Nguyen dynasty, are all in Chinese. Peek inside of one of these administrative buildings.
No.
To see.
No.
No what?
No.
Okay. Okay, bossy. Okay, bossy. Isn't that lovely? These are the colors that were in the throne palace. These pillars with the red and the gold kind of gives you a flavor, but everything else wasn't so elaborate. All these murals and stuff on the ceiling was more just all red and with gold. So this is the center of the Forbidden City. These corridors on the outside have been restored pretty much, but the center part is the Forbidden City, where just the emperor and his family and his concubines lived, all in this grassy area where nothing remains. The American bombers completely destroyed it all during the Vietnam War. And there were also eunuchs living here that were protecting the royal family. And anyway, you can see, luckily somehow much of the perimeter is preserved. That's what all these pictures are that we've been looking at. What do you think, beautiful?
Where's next?
Where's next? Okay. You get time when you're wandering around, look at some of these documents and what they're about. Documents issued by the emperor. This is Emperor Thu Tri, real name Nguyen Phuc Mien Tong, 11th day of the 5th month in 1807. He was born. Time of rule, 7 years. Vietnam was kind of a family feud. There was an emperor died. I have it written down. I'll tell you about it in Facts and History, but it was poisoned to death. And the guy that took over, I think his name was Kim Trinh, he was married to one of the king's daughters. And the first thing he did was assassinate the king's oldest son. And one of the younger sons pretended to be insane, and so that he wouldn't get assassinated. In other words, he's not competent to run the country, so didn't need to fear him. But a few years later, he asked if he could move to the south and put down a rebellion going on in southern Vietnam, and he did. And the South Vietnamese took to him, and he was from the Nguyen blood family. And eventually he came back and took this ground again. And the Nguyen dynasty, the family that the father had been poisoned and the oldest son had been murdered, came back and took over this area, and they actually united Vietnam again. And this lasted up until the French showed up, and then even as figureheads, I think it lasted until the beginning, until 1945, when Ho Chi Minh came along and took over. So now we're in the Queen Mother's area of the Imperial Palace. Devout Buddhists. I'm thinking this is the temple, but let's find out. Definitely seek out the Queen Mother area when you get here. So far it's been my favorite. Anyway, the Queen Mother is fairly highly regarded in Vietnamese culture. And it transfers through to the women in general, not just the Queen Mother, but in families. Wow. So this is the Queen Mother's personal Buddhist temple. And it looks all original to me, like maybe they've done some work in preservation, but very authentic. Look at this. It's just a gorgeous place. You can see on these outdoor little temples, you can see the beautiful artwork everywhere. Look at this downspout right here. Do you see the face up there? Between the two roofs is like a flat area, and then the water drips down through that mouth right there on that creature. I'm not sure, maybe a dragon? It's a dragon mouth. Pretty cool. Amazing extravagance. So this is the Queen Mother's residence. The Buddhist temples off to the right here that I just showed you. And this was the last Queen Mother in the dynasty. The last Queen Mother was a concubine, as I said a minute ago, which was news to me. I always thought that they were like two different classes of people. But it turns out the concubine can give birth to the future king. So this is the entry gate to the Queen Mother's home. And of course, it has its own gate within the Imperial city, which also has a gate around it. So it's very, very gated, very protected world. That's her home over there we just looked at. Anyway, very beautiful. So this is the reading room here, I believe. It's one of the only buildings that was not destroyed, was untouched by the bombing. And behind that is, I believe, what they call the Royal Theatre, which you've seen it from the other side. I took a picture of it in a little video, but let's go and look at the reading room. As you can see, it has a pond out front with some beautiful goldfish and carp. Let's see what it looks like inside. Wow, look at the intricacy of this roof line. So as you walk north to the viewpoint on the Perfume River, you're going to walk by all these like local party areas, so all the little red chairs, really cheap beer, that's where all the locals hang out, and cheap food. And then they have these boats, these party boats you can jump on. I don't know what they cost. Maybe someone will approach me and tell me, but aren't they cool? This is the lookout point for the Perfume River. By the way, while we were walking, these boats here that you see, they're dragon boats. Look, some of them look like they could hold like 40 or 50 people. Some of them only maybe 10.
Yeah. So it's from one person 200k down to 10k for 2 person. And you can see that's over there. It's rating 35k, and then small boat is 15k. So it's mean that is the price.
That's probably per person, right?
Yeah, it's per person.
Yeah, so a whole boat for two, anywhere from $20 per person down to $5 per person.
It should be like they have to like pick out like a collectible. They have to pick out, so it will become cheap, like 15k per person.
Yeah. So if you have a party, you can get them really cheap, but if not, you're gonna have to pay more. And you're gonna want to get one. See how the dragon's eyes are silver? That's what you need. I'm just goofing on you. Just grab one, have fun. All right. Any other thoughts about this thing? That completes our Old Town walking tour of Hue, Vietnam, which is the former capital. Thanks for stopping by. This is Dan of Vagabond Buddha. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, could you please like it, comment, or subscribe to our channel? That would really help our business. Thanks a bunch. I've been traveling the world now for 12 years, looking for the best live or retire cheap in paradise locations. I write reports about my favorite places. Right now there's about 40 reports up, 45, something like that. Also comparisons, why this one's better than that, and vice versa. And also strategy guides for how to arrange your life so you can live internationally. All of that's at Vagabond Buddha. We're running a special right now. Just click and watch the video. Click below this YouTube video and find out more about it. Thanks for stopping by.